Smashing didn't work. Let's give it another try. Let's try CPR style. And no, this is not cracking at all. This is more like a walnut saver. I'm Dan, and I've been designing kitchen gadgets for 40 years. I'm going to test some nut gadgets and see if I can find a way to make them better. So I would add some air holes to this. That would automatically catch every walnut. Maybe modify the tail. These are the products I am going to test. Dome Nutcracker, Squirrel Nutcracker, hand-cranked Walnut Cracker, Nuance Nutcracker, Nut Chopper. Dome Nutcracker. Its purpose in life is to crack any nut with one big smash. Let's see how effective it is. So it is a relatively heavy metal base and a rubberized dome. I'm gonna try an almond. And that did little or nothing. Let's try this. Dan, smash. No luck. Dan, smash. Unscathed. I gotta tell you, my wrist is hurting a little bit. Ow. Okay, so, see what I got. I got little almond bits. Actually, I think the rest of the almond got pulverized. It seems to be less of an almond in my hand than there was inside the shell. Let's see how the Dome Nutcracker compares with using a mallet. So I am pro mallet on this one. I feel like I have a little more control and my wrist does not hurt nearly as much. In terms of effectiveness, I would give the Dome Nutcracker a 2 out of 5. It's lacking some control and my wrist still hurts. Let's test this usability. Now we're gonna try the left-handed oil test. I'm gonna use my left hand because it's a little weaker. It's gonna point out any deficiencies. By making the hand slippery, it's also gonna exaggerate any problems. Dan, smash. It's not nearly as smashed. Still, my wrist is not feeling great. I just don't feel the satisfaction that I feel you should feel when you're really pulverizing a walnut or an almond. In terms of usability, I would give the Dome Nutcracker a 1 out of 5. I'm giving it a low rating because a dome does not want to collapse, so you're expending a lot of energy just collapsing the dome itself even before you start to crack the nut. Let's talk about how I would redesign this. When the dome is down on the base, this little step creates an air seal, which is partly what you're fighting against when you're trying to collapse the dome. I think I would lose the idea of a dome, and I guess an obvious thing to do would be just make a corrugated shape that wants to collapse. There could be a little bit of a dome here, as long as the whole thing collapses without resistance. Really like an accordion piece like that would do it. So this metal piece inside is corrugated. I would, if anything, experiment with increasing those shapes. Maybe do something a little more pronounced. I would either add some air holes to this so that air can escape without any problem. Something a little more smash friendly is going to benefit this design. When this is sitting on the table, you don't quite know what to make of it. If you have something like this that looks like you're gonna smash it, it kind of invites you to start using it. In terms of a buy rating, I would give the Dome Nutcracker a 1 out of 5. It's not that successful, it's not that controllable. On the other hand, it makes a pretty nice serving dish. Squirrel Nutcracker. Its purpose in life is to crack any nut while looking like an adorable little squirrel. Let's see how effective you are. I guess I will keep this upside down so I can see what I'm doing. And I'm just gonna crack it open, and that seemed to work. Let's try that again, this time with an almond. Squeeze. It's taking some pressure to do it. Here we go. Are we cracked? Okay, so let's try again. This almond is halfway cracked. It comes with a scooper fork, so you can either dig the nut out of the shell or dig the nut out of the squirrel. And the almond itself is intact. I'm gonna try again with the pecan, and I'm gonna give it a pretty good squeeze. See what we got. Pecan is being a little stubborn and doesn't want to come out. So here's some bits. Let's see how the Squirrel Nutcracker compares to a classic standard nutcracker. Between the two, I'm leaning towards the squirrel. It gets the job done, and it does it in a really cute way. In terms of effectiveness, I would give the Squirrel Nutcracker a 4 out of 5. It is just too cute to give it anything less. Let's test its usability, and I'm gonna do that with my left hand and making my left hand a little slippery. Now I can either put my fingers forward or my fingers on the handle. I don't think I have a preference yet, so let me try it this way. And this is taking a lot more work. The distance that I'm squeezing is about the same distance that the mechanism is squeezing the almond shell. So I'm not getting the mechanical advantage with the way that the leverage and the mechanical forces are being exerted. I am going to try to insert the walnut as deep into here as I can, and let me see if that is giving us any advantage. I can feel it starting to crack. Yeah. So it takes some work to give it some perfect placement. Even that didn't crack it completely, although it gave it a start. In terms of usability, I would give this a 3 out of 5. We have some design issues here. Or maybe you're just a little tired and you need a little nap. So let's talk about redesigning this cute little guy. The tail is relatively skinny here to here. But I think I would look at the shape and try to at least give a little bit more real estate. So I would widen that a little bit, maybe another 50%. I would look at this distance and make sure that your fingers can come up as high as possible. So I would maybe modify the tail, and that would just give a little more leverage, a little more mechanical advantage. The internal mechanism here has a pivot point right about here, and it's got an arm that comes down this way, a metal arm that comes down this way. It's got some ridges on the inside. Your greatest mechanical advantage is going to be closest to the pivot point. I would open this up as much as possible so that we can get a nut up closest to the pivot point as possible. And that would at least double your mechanical advantage. I would look into giving this some sort of curve so that when you drop the nut in and you start to squeeze, it stays in place. As I'm squeezing this, there's sort of a rough squeeze feel. It's like something is rubbing. Maybe this isn't the high quality gadget that I would hope it would be. In terms of a buy rating on a 5-point scale, I would give my little squirrel buddy a 3.5. It may be cute, but it has room for improvement. So sorry I only gave you a 3.5. You're still kind of cute. Oh, come on, don't be mad. Come on. Squirrels. Hand crank walnut cracker. It is designed to crack a whole lot of walnuts all at the same time. Let's see how effective it is. There's a lid, there's a hopper. There is a size adjustment wheel here. So screwing this is going to open and close a little flapper that's going to adjust depending on the size of the walnut you're going to put inside. We'll give it a shot. And I would say not. So I'm going to open up the flapper a bit, and I could feel something crack or catch. But I would have expected a little more cracking action here. They're cracked, but not all the way through. As a matter of fact, this one looks a little more damaged than cracked open. The size adjustment seems to be so fussy. It's not that it didn't crack them eventually, but it took more adjustment and it was a little less consistent than I would have thought, given the fact that this is a rather sizable unit. Not great. In terms of effectiveness, I would give the hand crank walnut cracker a 2 out of 5, but it seemed to damage the walnuts more than crack them, and the adjustment seems a whole lot fussier than I would have liked. Let's test its usability. But I think you'll see what the results are. It doesn't seem that effective anyway, so let's see what gives when I try this with my left hand if anything else reveals itself. I'm just going to let the walnuts fall on the table so you can see exactly what we get without hiding any. And we get some cracked walnuts, but one in there that's just, two in there that are just rolling around. For something this large, I would have expected this to be a little more effective or efficient. In terms of fully cracking, I wouldn't call this a cracked walnut as much as a damaged walnut. It really cut off 1/4, but I've got to go in here and really do some work to open it up. In terms of usability, I give it a 4 out of 5. Physical usability is okay. I think left or right, slippery or not slippery, you're going to be able to adjust it and crank the handle. I just don't think the results are that impressive. So let's talk about a redesign. One of the things I would do to improve usability is give this a clear cover so I don't have to keep lifting to see what's going on with the walnuts that are inside. So inside is this grinder. It's sort of a star-shaped wheel and cross-section that's catching the walnut, or should be catching the walnut. There is this adjustable piece where there's a straight flapper that is adjustable in terms of the size of that chute. I would think about, number one, making these fins quite a bit larger. Maybe we only need 3 of them, because all we want to do is catch the walnut as it goes in. Instead of making this plate inside just a flat plate, I think I would give that a curve. I think I would make that a cam action. So you had a lot of space here, but you had less and less space here as it starts to crush the walnut. That would automatically take the walnuts in and automatically catch every walnut. I would put a pretty strong spring here, and that spring needs to be strong enough to crack the walnut. It does have that sort of old coffee grinder aesthetic, and I think that's what's a little disappointing about it. It's pretty heavy duty. It's got definitely a heavy duty crank. It's pretty sturdily built. That all goes for nothing though if it's not working. In terms of a buy rating, I would give it a 1 out of 5, and no better than that. It's huge. It's going to take up a whole lot of space in the kitchen. It really overpromises just from its size and its construction. It does look a little bit like a baby bird bath, although any bird going in there could be risking its life. Nuance Nutcracker. Its purpose in life is to crack nuts with a simple twist of the wrist. Let's see how effective it is. This is not a perfect circle here. What this is a decreasing radius. So as the nut finds its way around, it's going to get more and more compressed, and eventually that shell is going to crack. Got a pecan, we're going to start with that. Let's start twisting, taking a little bit of work, but I can feel it tightening, 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 and it cracked. I'm going to try again. I'm going to put the pecan in. I'm going to start twisting. And I can feel a crack. Is that cracked enough? I can see. Let's see, I'm going to release it. And yeah, so I have 2 halves of a pecan shell. That works okay. I know you can't tell on camera, but this is actually a pretty heavy-duty device. Let's see how the Nuance Nutcracker compares with cracking open a nut using a cast iron skillet. I think I prefer the skillet. It may be a 2-handed operation, but I think this worked just as effectively. In terms of effectiveness, I would give the Nuance Nutcracker a 4 out of 5. I think with a little bit of practice, you can get a technique down where you have some control. I think this will last forever. And I think it can crack different sizes of nuts. Time for the left-handed oil test. Let's check its usability by making both hands slippery. This is really a 2-hand operation. Maybe hard to see, but it is not cracking the nut. With slippery hands, I just have nothing to push against. I'm squeezing as hard as I can, and I am not getting any action. The weaker hand, I think, would have trouble squeezing this hard enough to get this shell to crack. In terms of usability, I would give the Nuance Nutcracker a 2 out of 5. It takes a lot of work to spin this, even if your hands are not slippery. Obviously, with slippery hands, it really points out some deficiencies or some areas for improvement. Let's think redesign. When you see a smooth circular gadget that you have to twist, you probably know it's coming. I think this needs something to grab onto. Maybe we do like a 3-sided thing. This could be concave instead of convex. That may actually give a little bit more to push around, to push against. And I would wonder if there's a shape here that would help crack the nut more than having this even collection of ridges. It should do something like this to give it more of a pressure point in the middle, or try to catch the entire nut and then give a whole lot of pressure there to start the nut to crack. It would be a lot more fun if it wasn't so much of a struggle, and I think some of these suggestions may reduce the struggle. In terms of a buy rating, I would give the Nuance Nutcracker a 2 out of 5. This feels like it should be more fun, and it feels like it should be less of a struggle and should be a little more magic, especially considering the weight. It's a lot of material that, again, has a lot of competition in things that you already may have in your kitchen. Nut chopper. It's designed to grind nuts down into tiny little bits. It's got an upper part with a lid, and that's where I'm going to put in the already shelled nuts. Let's see what happens now if I go clockwise in the coarse direction. Let's see what I get. And there's still a couple of bits that are not falling out, but they look pretty well chopped anyway. In terms of being coarsely chopped, I would have expected to have chunks as opposed to these little sand-sized bits. Let's try walnuts again. This time I'm going to crank counterclockwise, which is the direction that is labeled fine. I gotta say, it doesn't look radically different from the coarse direction. I would have expected the difference to be more noticeable. Let's see how the nut chopper compares to just chopping with a knife. I may prefer the nut chopper if I have a large number of nuts that I want to chop, large quantities. But for this moderate quantity, I prefer the knife. In terms of effectiveness, I would give it a 4 out of 5. Maybe that's a little bit generous. I drop it down for a couple of reasons. One is you don't really have control. And two, the coarse and fine settings really didn't do much at all, so I think that's over-promising. Let's test its usability. Time for the left-handed oil test. Getting some oil on the almonds, that's okay. They're slipping out of my hands, that's okay. There is some work being done with my right hand. But I'm doing a whole lot of pressing with my left hand. The crank's not wonderful, but I think what really is the issue is I push down that way, it wants to go that way. And of course, if my hand wasn't on it, it would just want to twist that way naturally. Pulling this off isn't that easy. And I will twist this open, and they are chopped, and it is rather a variety of different levels of coarseness or fineness. So lefty or righty, if you're expecting even chopped bits, I don't think you're going to find that as a result. In terms of usability, I would give this a 2 out of 5. I think there's some easy areas for improvement. I don't think it's very stable. I feel like I was fighting it or it was fighting me. Let's talk about a redesign for this. I think there are a couple of things that can improve it. I would come out far, far, far with this oval. And we're getting the base, the footprint here, just about under the handle. We'd have to make sure there's clearance here to do it, and it would be a lot more stable. Cranking was an obvious part of the problem. There's work that's being done with the opposite hand just to keep this stable. In terms of the handle itself, I think I would simply exaggerate these curves. I think I would really do something with that shape to really have a little more fun with it. For this lid, you may have noticed it was really hard to remove. So what I would do is just continue this line so that we get this inverse angle here, so that as you grab it with your fingers, you have something to more easily push up on. In terms of a buy rating, I would give the nut chopper a 3 out of 5, and that's a little generous. That's really only if you're okay with the inconsistency of the final result. Sorry, nut chopper, you can actually be designed a little bit better. A lot of time and money went into the creation of nut cracking gadgets, but these just didn't pull it off. Some may be cute, some may look impressive, but they just did not deliver. Come on, buddy. Time to go home.